Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Pedro Silva.
I don't want to.
That's funny. That's funny.
I don't want to make you wrong, but my name is Pedro Silva II, so I'm not the one and only. So, but you know, somebody told me today something I haven't heard in a long time. They told me I have a Mexican name. You know what I mean? They said, I said, oh yeah, my name is Pedro, and she said, a Mexican name. You Mexican? And I had to stop for a second. I had a flashback when I was a little kid, when I first moved to my neighborhood in Norfolk, Virginia. That's what they asked me. So I moved to this neighborhood, and I grew up in, anybody familiar with Virginia? Yes. Okay, so I grew up in Portsmouth, Virginia, right? And if you look up Portsmouth now, it's nothing good. But when I first moved there, it was like, you know, it's just black and white. You know, just black people and white people. And anybody that was not black or white was out on both sides. You know what I mean? So when I moved to my neighborhood, people asked me, they said, hey, what's your name, man? I said, I didn't even want to tell them because I knew it was coming. And they said, I said, Pedro. I said, Pedro? Pedro, you Mexican? I said, no, I'm not Mexican. They said, no, you Mexican. I said, no, I'm pretty sure I'm not Mexican. It's like, no. With a name like that, you're Mexican. And then when I started school, they said, hey man, look, there's a Mexican. And then everybody decided they were going to make a little song about me, and it was Pedro, go back to Mexico. Which is not cool. And they were like, Pedro, go back to Mexico. Pedro, go back to Mexico. So all of my life, I've had to struggle with my name. And I tried to figure out, like, what could I do? And I tried to have a bunch of different names. I tried to tell people, give me a nickname, call me this, call me that. Never stuck. And I decided one day that my name was like the first lie my parents ever told me. And I was like, oh, your name is the first lie your parents ever told you. And I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but if you think about it, it's kind of true. Because you come into the world, you're born, somebody looks at you and they just throw a name at you. Now, what's your name?
Lee.
Lee. Do you feel like a Lee?
He does.
Do you though?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. You're not certain.
Yeah.
You're not certain. Your parents looked at you. Are you named after somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay, who?
My grandpa, Leon.
Grandpa Leon. Okay. Now, do you know your Grandpa Leon?
No.
Okay. So they looked at you and they said, Grandpa Leon. And then they gave you that name. And they had an idea in their head of what that meant. And was it you? Right? So, just to make you think, I'm one of those people that makes you think it's going to come around. So I decided my parents were lying to me when they called me Pedro. So every time somebody called me Pedro, I would just kind of like ignore them and just be like, that's not my name. I don't know what my name is, but it's not that. And I would just kind of like, or I started letting people call me Pedro, whatever the case may be. But I struggled with this name. And then when I got to, until I was about, about 20 years old, I moved to Arizona, right? Where there were Mexicans. And I showed up with this exact same name. And people looked at me and they were like, Pedro, you're not Mexican. And I was like, yeah, I know. And so I had to deal with that. I really was like, I kind of had this resentment, like, why don't they just ask me, you know, let you get old enough and then say, who do you think you are? And then you give them a name, whatever the case may be. So I was struggling with this name thing, was following me all my life, and then I ended up becoming real cool with a guy named Carlos, who was Mexican. And Carlos was like, oh man, come on, let's go. He decided to let me hang out with his people, with his family. And I went out and we stayed at his apartment. It was about 40 or 50 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment. And real talk, we were. It was about 40 or 50 of us. We were laying down and everything. And everybody was pretty cool with me. And then they said, let's go to this club. And it was a club I was like, y'all sure you don't want to take me to this club? Because it was a club that, let's say I should have been, but it wasn't a club for people that looked like me named Pedro. So I walked in and then Carl said, hold on, I'll be right back, cuz. He went to the bathroom. Left me there. All of a sudden I was surrounded by people whose names should have been Pedro. And they said, it was like, what's up, Holmes? And I was like, uh-oh. And they were like, what you doing here, cuz? What you doing here, Holmes? And I was like, I'm just waiting for my cousin. And they're like, your cousin? Who's your cousin? And I was like, then all of a sudden, I don't know why I did this, is probably racist of me, but I said, Carlos. And it was like, Carlos. And I was like, all right, yeah. So then Carlos walked out and they said, Carlos, your cousin? I said, yeah, man. And they said, what's your name? I said, Pedro. And they were like, Pedro? And I was like, yeah. I said, man, I'm Blaxican. And they were like, Blaxican? And they were like, let me see your ID. And then I was like, all right, I showed them ID, and they were like, yo, man, this dude here's Mexican. And everybody was like, yeah. And I started going, all right, sometimes this name works for me. But I had this other recurrence with my name. This happened like literally like last week. I was getting on a flight, and I was waiting to get a ticket. I was flying standby. And eventually the lady says, you can get on the plane. I said, oh, hallelujah. Because I had been there for like 9 hours. She gave me the ticket. I started to get on the plane, and then she runs up to me, and she goes, can I get your ticket? Can I get your ticket? And I was just like, yeah, sure. And then she took it back from me, and then she gave it to this other guy. And then I was like, I hadn't looked at the name. And she's like, I don't know why, but I thought your name was Dante Williams. And I was like, I didn't look at the ticket, so I didn't know. But I was like, oh, I started thinking about I wanted to get on the plane, so I didn't say what I was really thinking. But I was like, I think we know why you thought my name was Dante Williams. I was thinking it in my head. I was like, you think my name is Dante Williams, just like I know that my customer service representative's name not Michael Johnson. You know what I mean? And so I didn't say anything though. And so I saw the real Dante Williams. Now, what do y'all think that real Dante Williams looked like? Oh, Mexican, now that'd be cool. Nah, he looked like most of y'all. And I was like, what? That guy's Dante Williams. So then I was like, oh, I'm doing the same thing to him that people did to me. I'm like, this is Dante Williams? What the heck? I was like, man, do you know what kind of life I would have had if my name was Dante Williams? I was like, I wish my name was Dante Williams. And now it's like Dante Tyrone Williams. So I was like, man, I wish, what kind of life would I have if my name was Dante Tyrone Williams? And I started thinking about all the things I had gone through in my life. What would my name be? What would my life be like if I was Dante Tyrone Malcolm Williams? And I started having more and more dreams of what my life could have been. Dante Tyrone Malcolm Jamal Williams. Had more and more fantasies, more dreams. I realized I wasn't living my true life. Because if I was living my true life, my name would be Dante Tyrone Malcolm Jamal Warner Williams. And then I was like, I started thinking about my family, my life, all the things I've been through, and I started thinking about how your name can really, really make a difference in the life you have. So then I changed my name to Dante Tyrone Malcolm Jamal Warner X Williams. So now I want to be referred to as that, just in case next time we have a comedy thing. That's my name. But I started really thinking about it, and I started thinking about all the things that we get told in our lives that shape us for the rest of our lives that might not necessarily be true. You know, but we live into them. As some of you know, I used to be a pastor. Some of you know that, or one of you knows that, two of you know that, whatever, somebody knows. And when I was growing up, I didn't have that many options in my neighborhood. Where I grew up, they told me like, you know, my dad, I didn't live with my dad. So they said, you're black, you ain't got your dad, you live in this neighborhood, so here's your options. You're gonna go to jail. This is gonna be sad for y'all, I'm just letting y'all know. So you got jail, you got dead, you got basketball, that wasn't happening. Rap, which I was really about, except for I belonged to one of those churches where they thought rap was from the devil, so that was out. So then being a pastor, that was the last one. And I ended up doing it. And then I had like a midlife crisis. I said, man, I ended up doing the one job that they said I could do. And what if I thought I could do something different? Being, you know, Dante, Tyrone, Malcolm Jamal Warner X Williams, would I have chosen something different? And the answer is I really don't know. So I started doing this, trying to find out. I'm testing the waters. But I started realizing that a lot of times in life you get told all these stories about who you are and who you aren't, and then they try to keep you in your box. And if you don't do what people say you should do, then they say, hey, well, what are you doing? You're doing something you shouldn't be doing. Or you sound like somebody you shouldn't sound like. You're doing this, that, the other thing. And I decided that I would use, some people know this, this is a shameless plug, but I started doing this comedy style I call liberation comedy because I want people to think and laugh. I want them to question. I don't want them to just be like, pussy jokes. Sorry. You know what's funny? You talking about your age? I said, oh my God, I just said pussy in front of this little girl. That's not right. I didn't realize I did that. I'm calling myself out.
Do you want to see my ID?
No.
I'm just saying. I totally have it.
But I decided I gotta start doing something different. I gotta break out of all the boxes and then figure out something different. Because a lot of us are stuck in these boxes, right? You know, and the world can't take it anymore. Like, how many of y'all saw the Alabama Brawl?
Woo! Oh yeah.
Alabama Brawl? Okay. Y'all know what the Alabama Brawl is? Oh no! I gotta tell you what the Alabama Brawl is. Okay. So here's the Alabama Brawl. Just thinking about it is making me laugh. So, in Montgomery, Alabama, not too many days ago. Now you know. Not too many days ago, some people, I would say that they felt like they, you know all the words. They were like, "This is my life. I don't have to move. You don't have to tell me anything." Da da da. So they decide they're gonna pick on this one black dude, and they decide they're gonna jump him. And then this black dude, I don't know what happened, but the memes are hilarious. So the dude's getting beat up. He takes his hat. I wore this hat just in case. Threw it in the air. Threw his hat in the air. And out of nowhere, black people started coming from all over the place. They were like, it's Wakanda forever. and they got these folks, they were beating up this dude. One guy jumps out the boat because they were trying to dock their boat, and these people had their boat and they wouldn't move it. That's why this whole fight started. This one guy jumps in. They started calling him, because Michael Phelps doesn't sound like a black name, right? They started calling him Jamichael Phelps. He jumps in the water, swims over, joins the fight, starts doing what had to be done. Then they pull out one of these folding chairs here, and this one guy started like WWE, like blah, 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 blah. And then the thing eventually ends. And I've been thinking about that because a lot of people, they're struggling with. I heard one person say, "What if the tables were turned?" And I was like, "What?" It was a white guy. He was like, "What if the tables were turned? And all these white people, all this stuff, these black people." And I was like, "Dude, this is the tables being turned." You know what I mean? And I think you see so many times the opposite, and nobody got killed, thank God. But I think it's a part of the tension in our society that we got to break out of these boxes. That people said, I'm not going to sit here anymore and take this crap anymore. But it's not just about the big things at societal level, it's in our individual lives. Because I think a lot of us do the things we do because we're trapped in boxes. And then we want other people to be in the boxes too. Because then it justifies the boxes we put ourselves in. See, I told you I was trying to make people think. So, I'm going to tell you a couple more funny stories. But Philip said I was long-winded. I told him I'm not long-winded, I'm time blind. But I'm gonna tell y'all one more background story about my life and how I frame. I won't call it a midlife crisis, but I'm definitely in some reflection. So, how many of y'all know about code switching? I'm like educating folks tonight. Code switching. Code switching?
Yeah.
So code switching, basically, it's like changing the way you talk to fit into a certain situation. So then a lot of times people say, like, if a person has a certain vernacular from wherever they grew up or whatever, then they switch it up and they call it code switching. So where I grew up, I told you I grew up in Virginia, but my mom and my grandmother were English teachers. So I spoke what they call proper grammar, right? So when I moved to my neighborhood, people thought they said I talked white. You ever heard that?
Yeah.
They said, why are you talking white? I said, I don't talk white. Well, back then I said, actually, I do not talk white. I don't know what you mean. And I was like, whatever do you mean, sir? And they were like, no, man, you talk like a white person. And I was like, no, I talk like my mother. And they were like, what? Your mama black? You're Mexican and black? I said, no. Like, whatever do you mean? This is preposterous. You know? And I will take my briefcase and go. So, and I'm not bullshitting, because my mom, she is an interesting character. So she decided, she told me my granddad, he always wanted a job where he could wear a suit and carry a briefcase. But he worked at the shipyard. So what he would do is he'd get a briefcase, and he'd put his overalls in the briefcase, and he'd wear a suit to work. And he would wear it to work, then he would put on his overalls, then he would leave and come home, so that's how he had to do it. So my mom decided that was gonna be, because she decided, you look like my daddy. I named you after your daddy. So you're gonna go to school, you're gonna wear a suit, and carry a briefcase in the hood. And you're gonna talk like this. So I did, and I was walking, me and my brother. Thank God I had a brother, so I would get beat up by myself. And we came to school, and they was like, I don't say the N word in front of a bunch of white people, no offense, because I don't want y'all to go back and tell somebody else the joke later and be like, and you know what he said? He said, and that, so none of that. But let's just use your imagination. When I walked up with the briefcase, and they said, look at this, fill in the blank, here, with this briefcase, talking like this. And these kids, and my mom wouldn't let us wear sneakers or anything. We couldn't wear sneakers, we were just straight up dressed up. They call us church boys. And they beat us up and took our briefcases. My mom said I did it on purpose, and I was like, I don't get that. And she decided also that she was gonna make me tougher than the streets. My mom's plan was like, she wanted me to be more scared of her than I was scared of the streets and the police. And she wanted me to, she had plans for me, she made up her mind. She was like, look, your name is not Dante Tyrone, but she was her way. So she started taking martial arts so that she could fight me, teach me how to fight, me and my brother. And so she had this whole plan for who I was gonna be and contain me in this little box, right? So and whenever we got in trouble, she would make my brother get back to back with her. And one of us had to call it. So she'd be like, oh, what did you say? Hajime. She said, back to back. I'm like, all right. I get back to back. You know Hajime. She said, back to back. Make me and my brother get back to back. Then she'd be like, call it. Then my brother would be like, oh God, no man, man. Don't say it, man, don't say it. I'm sorry, man, I don't know what to do. Hajime. So my mom would just get then she would just, take us down, whatever the case may be. And she would go through the neighborhood, she would grab people's pants and pull them up, and all this other craziness. All this craziness. And her whole thing was she had decided who I was gonna be. And I am him. I'm literally the dude that my mom created. And now that I changed my name to Dante Tyrone, Malcolm Jamal Warner X Williams, I don't know who I'm gonna be. But that's beautiful. Because ultimately, each and every one of us is a mystery. We're a mystery to ourselves. We're a mystery to the world. And the best gift that we can be to ourselves and to everybody else is to be a mystery and to see a mystery. To not go out in the world projecting on people, thinking that we know things just because we know their name or what they look like or how they dress or how they smell or any of those things. But to just look out at each other and be like, I'm a mystery, perceiving the mystery, living within the mystery, and we're all discovering one another. And if we can do that, then I think we'll have a jolly good time. So I'm gonna get down, unless I can say one more thing that's very funny. So this is the last thing I'll say, for real. So when I got to the neighborhood and realized I didn't know the vernacular of my compatriots, I asked them what they were saying, because I had never cussed before. Because I had never heard the N word, nor had I cussed when I moved in that neighborhood. I didn't know the cuss word. So when they were saying something, I thought they were speaking a foreign language. So they were talking to me and they're like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, excuse me. I don't understand what you're saying. Could you please repeat what you're saying, please? I don't understand. And they were like, what? I said, okay, wait, slow down. And I took out my little notebook, and I was like, okay, how do you spell that? Mother. Suck my what? Son of a who? And then I was a good student, so I got home that night, and I was sitting in my living room flipping through my notebook, and I was like, kiss my shit, mother beep, sucker, kiss it, do it. And I was like, I was practicing because I was like, I'm gonna get this language. I'm going to school next week. They're gonna know. And my mom, she came in the room, and she was like, "What did you say?" And I didn't know it was bad, but I knew by how she reacted that it probably wasn't what I should be saying. And I had my little notebook and I closed it real slow. And I was like, well, I slid it under behind me. She was just looking right at me. And I slid that thing and I put it under there and she pulled it out and she started flipping. And her face started, and she was like, and then I found out my mom knew all those words. She knew them all. And she told me, using those words, to never use those words again. And then she called my brother and she said, Tony, you know what time it is? Back to back. That's where it is. All right, that's my time.